Okay, let's talk about something that can feel, well, a little uncomfortable, but is so important. STDs. Now, what makes this explainer a bit different is where it came from. It's all based on the actual research a parent did for their son, who was heading off to college. They just wanted advice that was grounded in real data, not in fear.
And this really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? This isn't about scare tactics. It's about empowerment. It's about seeing facts and science as an act of care, a way to arm ourselves and the people we love with knowledge they absolutely need to have. So, what did this deep dive into the facts actually turn up? Well, the first major discovery was the sheer scale of the problem. Seriously, the number of people in the US with an STD is bigger than you might think. It's frankly staggering.
Just take a second and let that sink in. 1 in 5 people. That is a full 20% of the population. We're not talking about some rare thing that happens to other people. This is a widespread public health reality.
And when you ask, okay, so who's most affected? The data points to one group very clearly. Over half, yeah, more than 50% of all new infections happen in people under the age of 25. This makes the conversation especially critical for young adults. So how does that big 1 in 5 number actually play out in real life? Well, the simple math is pretty eye-opening. If you have 5 different partners, probability says you've likely been with someone who has an STD. All of a sudden, that huge national statistic becomes incredibly personal, doesn't it?
But here's the thing. The challenge isn't just about how common STDs are. It's also about the very nature of these diseases. Because, as we're about to see, the biggest risks are often the ones you can't see at all.
Let's take a specific example to really get what we're talking about. The research highlighted genital herpes as a major concern. But why? What is it that makes this particular virus so troubling?
It really comes down to a kind of perfect storm of 4 key factors. First, it's really common. We're talking about 1 in 8 people. Second, it's incurable. It's a lifelong condition. Third, and this is so important, it often has no symptoms whatsoever. And finally, it can be spread through skin-to-skin contact, which means that even condoms don't give you full protection. You put all that together, and it makes it incredibly difficult to navigate.
And this right here, this might be the single most important takeaway from all the research. Most people with an STD are asymptomatic. You simply cannot tell if someone has an infection just by looking at them. That one fact alone should completely change how we think about risk. This chart gives you a really quick, useful overview. On one hand, you have bacterial infections, like chlamydia and gonorrhea. They're curable with simple antibiotics, but the danger is they often go untreated because they're asymptomatic, which can lead to serious issues like infertility. On the other hand, you have incurable viruses, things like HIV, which thankfully is now manageable with treatment, and HPV, which is the most common STD of all, and it's preventable with a vaccine. So, we've got the data. It's a widespread and often invisible problem. So, what can we actually do about it? Well, the research didn't just identify the risks, it also laid out a really clear, practical action plan. The plan really boils down to 4 key steps. Number 1 is the foundation. Both partners get tested before a new sexual relationship begins. It's the only way to establish a clear baseline. 2, make testing an annual routine if you're not in a mutually monogamous relationship. 3 is about acknowledging the math. More partners simply means a higher statistical risk. And finally, number 4 is about understanding your tools and their limitations, especially when it comes to condoms.
Yeah, let's look closer at that last point, because it's important. Condoms are crucial, and they're highly effective at preventing diseases passed through fluids like HIV and chlamydia. But for diseases that spread by skin-to-skin contact, like herpes, syphilis, and HPV, they only reduce the risk. They don't eliminate it. And that's just because they don't cover all the potentially infectious areas. And all this brings us right back to where we started, a conversation. This entire journey began because a parent wanted to talk to their son. So now, armed with the facts, the real question is, what conversation will you start? With a partner? With your kids? A friend? Because taking control of our health, it starts with knowledge for sure, but it truly takes hold when we start talking.